Welcome to the debate. Our discussion today centers on the structural cruelty of Panem as we analyze a complex context surrounding Haymitch Abernathy's victory in the 50th Hunger Games, the second Quarter Quell.
This material, found in Sunrise on the Reaping, it offers more than just a backstory. It gives us a deep look into the precise mechanics the capital used to solidify its dominion, decades after the Dark Days. We are looking at the foundational period of their oppression.
Exactly. And that perspective forces us to confront a fundamental disagreement about the nature of the capital's control. Is that control ultimately fragile, relying entirely on maintaining a carefully constructed narrative of perfection and order?
Or is its power rooted in inevitable, inescapable structural violence that no individual act, even a victory, can truly dismantle?
I will argue that the capital's power is remarkably brittle and highly dependent on narrative control and propaganda. Haymitch's story shows that when that narrative is successfully pierced, the structure shudders.
And I take the opposing view. I maintain that the capital's power is fundamentally structural, enforced by calculated economic division and overwhelming physical retribution, confirming that individual acts of defiance, however heroic, are ultimately futile against the sheer weight of the state machine.
The capital's control system requires immense, constant maintenance to uphold an elaborate illusion, which, to me, indicates inherent fragility. We see the exhausting lengths they go to prevent the public from seeing the reality of the games, which suggests they fear the truth. Consider Plutarch Heavensbee's role, for instance. He is immediately established not as a mere organizer, but as a crisis manager. His mission after the tributes die horribly on the opening platform is to ensure the Capital News coverage is presenting the opening ceremony as flawless. They have to lie instantly and comprehensively to preserve the facade. The tributes are never meant to be people. They must remain happy playthings.
Right. That preservation is key.
And that necessity for the lie forced them into astonishing acts of desperation. The effort needed to cover up the death of Luella McCoy, a child already dead, by creating Lulu, a drugged, blank-face body double, highlights the systemic panic. If the capital were truly secure in its structural power, why expend so much energy maintaining a literal replacement doll? Unscripted acts of rebellion, like Haymitch's spontaneous applause directed at President Snow after witnessing that death, or Maysilee calling the games team low rent. These moments create fissures that prove the narrative is a vulnerable lie.
That's a powerful reading of the narrative side, I grant you. But I would argue that those small moments of defiance are necessary only because the structural mechanisms are so ruthlessly effective that they force desperation. The capital's power is rooted in economic design that guarantees internal division and subjugation, and that division functions perfectly regardless of whether the opening ceremony is flawless or not.
Okay, but the effort.
The clearest evidence of this structural underpinning is the cumulative tesserae system. We see the sheer weight of that economic reality. Haymitch, a poor child from the seam, had 20 entries by age 16 because he had to trade his name for food for his family. 20. Meanwhile, Maysilee Donner, a town kid, took tesserae rarely if at all. The system intentionally uses poverty to pit district citizens against each other, and ensuring that those with the greatest reason to rebel are also those most likely to be reaped and eliminated. The capital engineered the environment perfectly to suppress organized revolts.
I see the division point.
Furthermore, the structural violence is the ultimate tool. Snow's personalized retribution following Haymitch's victory was absolute and inescapable. His family was killed via arson at home. His love, Lenore Dove, was poisoned via gumdrops. This shows that the state isn't just managing public perception. It is capable of total, targeted, catastrophic consequence designed to eliminate the possibility of hope itself. Haymitch received drugs via a chest pump upon his return and was publicly broken into becoming, no greater suck-up exists in the history of the games. His body and mind were structurally subjugated.
I see why you emphasize the systemic violence inherent in the tesserae, but let's shift focus from the ledger book to the source of that rebellious spirit. The material reminds us that Paynham's oppression is the relatively recent outcome of a civil war lost only, 50 years prior. The capacity for dissent is older than the current structure of the games. Haymitch's family were explicitly described as known rebels back in the day, carrying the scent of sedition. That knowledge, that memory, lives on through the seditious poetry of the Covey, shared by Lenore Dove, the verse about those who conspire to make the law. This tradition of intellectual resistance, of recognizing the inherent corruption of the ruling class, it predates the economic manipulation. Oppression creates resistance. It doesn't eliminate the capacity for freedom. It merely channels it.
But the structural brilliance of the capital lies precisely in making that historical resistance impossible to mobilize. The tesserae system, which requires people to risk their children's lives for basic sustenance, securing 3 tesserae annually for Haymitch and his family, that was put in place after the war to crush that spirit through necessity. The structural reality ensures that defiance becomes an act of desperation, born of poverty, not a spontaneous, conscious choice against a stable regime.
So you're saying the structure dictates the nature of the defiance?
Exactly. The economic reality ensured that Haymitch's ability to survive in the arena was tied up in his desperation. The capital leveraged his poverty to place him in the arena where his defiance could only ever be contained or crushed.
But what about the attack on the arena itself? That wasn't just an emotional outburst. It was a sophisticated intellectual challenge. The plot to break the arena by intentionally flooding and shorting the generator, Beetee's plan executed using the explosive and Lenore Dove's flint striker, that represents a successful, tangible attack on the capital's physical infrastructure. Haymitch didn't just survive, he forced the machine to fail.
Tactically, perhaps.
And his public defiance, the clapping at Snow, the spitting at the Capitol citizen, was intentional. He created a powerful, memorable poster for future rebellion. He used the very platform designed for his humiliation to broadcast a message of intellectual resistance and contempt, ensuring the Capitol was fundamentally changed by his victory.
With respect, you're mistaking tactical success for structural defeat. Haymitch sank a generator, sure, but the capital's real power structure, its control over resources, its ability to inflict sovereign violence, was completely untouched. Let's look at the results of your successful poster.
Okay.
The Capitol immediately edited the footage, erasing the tank bombing and preserving the public image of the opening ceremony as flawless. The audience, none the wiser. The sabotage was instantly contained in the narrative sphere, demonstrating how quickly the structural power can erase a moment of triumph. And the retribution? Total personal annihilation. Snow ensured Haymitch was completely isolated, stripping him of the one thing that mattered, connection. The arson, the gumdrops, that level of targeted, calculated violence proves the capital will sacrifice the illusion of a fair game to protect the ultimate structure of its authority. The chilling message was delivered. You may win the game, but the system will destroy you.
Yet that ruthless efficiency, I think it breeds internal dissent. We see credible internal fractures that weaken the capital's ideological control. Plutarch's ambiguity is key here. Despite his position, he repeatedly provides Haymitch with crucial information: the sun position, the berms, the phone call to Lenore Dove, which suggests he is either deeply conflicted or maybe actively working against the existing structure. This provides real tactical aid to the resistance.
Or it suggests something else entirely.
Moreover, the sheer incompetence and disloyalty demonstrated by members of the games team, like Drusilla and Magno Stift, who were fired or demoted after the games, suggests Panem is rife with internal entropy. When the people tasked with maintaining the perfection of the spectacle are this flawed and easily compromised, the structure is inherently unstable. Rebellion needs just one weak link to exploit.
That's true. He did know. The complexity of Plutarch's role, and even the existence of incompetence, serves to demonstrate the breadth of Snow's control. He allows low-level dissent because he can track it, utilize it, and ultimately fold it back into the control structure. Snow knew exactly what Haymitch was planning, allowed the victory, and then used the pre-existing private relationships, the token, Lenore, as the precise vector for maximum emotional damage. That is not fragility. That is total, sophisticated control. Snow sacrifices minor functionaries to prove his total dominance over the remaining survivors.
Ultimately, Haymitch's story is a compelling testament to the power of human resilience and intellectual defiance. His willingness to sacrifice everything to pierce the capital's narrative, to create that indelible poster, proves that their regime is a constructed illusion that can be successfully broken by targeted acts of truth. He planted a seed of resistance that forced the capital to show its hand, proving it is fallible. But the violence directed at Haymitch, Lenore Dove, and his family confirms that the capital's structure is unyielding. His survival came at the cost of utter isolation and the public humiliation of becoming the ultimate suck-up. The capital demonstrated that it can always exact a price so devastating that any victory is rendered meaningless, ensuring that true enduring freedom cannot be won through a game designed solely for subjugation. The 50th Games, then, leaves us with the agonizing question of whether Haymitch's desperate final choice to try and keep that sun from rising on the reaping actually laid a path toward future liberation.
Or if it simply solidified his perpetual suffering under Snow's unblinking, all-seeing eye. It forces the listener, I think, to consider the true, often invisible cost of resistance.